Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/EntitledParents Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My Karen sister allowed her son to give my dog dreadlocks. After that, accused of working with criminals because I delivered them a pizza. And after that, you want to ignore the group project? 0 for you. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to get dreadlocks.
Yeah man, what's wrong with the dreadlocks, butter?
So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My Karen sister allowed her son to give my dog dreadlocks. My sister is a single mom with one son who's 14, and they've been staying at my place for the last few because they lost their apartment and she's saving up money to get them a new apartment. She, however, has driven me crazy lately. She's up late at night on her phone or watching TV. I go to work at 3:30 a.m., so I've been getting less sleep. Her son constantly bothers my daughter. She has brought men over from the bars, etc. She doesn't do chores, they make messes, and I've addressed these issues so many times, and I just get ignored. The final straw came when I came home from work last night, and I saw that my dog had dreadlocks. Not a lot, but like maybe 8 or so. What the heck? I'm not sure if that's alright. He sure didn't seem comfortable and was pawing at them. I'm worried because I've heard horror stories about people who didn't wash properly and nasty stuff grew inside of their dreadlocks. I asked him about it and he said he thought it would look cool and he's not finished yet. I was so upset when I saw that, and later I found out that he posted it on TikTok. That was the final straw. I told my sister she had to leave. She of course pulled the whole "but we're family" card, saying how she's a struggling mom and how it's just a dog and it's not a big deal. I told her I'm sick of this. He knew better, and quite honestly, I'm tired of living with them. She, of course, called my parents, who sided with me, thankfully, but our siblings and cousins took her side, who bombarded me with texts and calls telling me that I need to take them back in. She eventually moved in with my brother. Anyways, I'm wondering if I did the wrong thing here. I feel bad because they're struggling, but giving my dog dreadlocks was just crossing the line. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his sister? Please let us know.
If you gave my dog dreadlocks, you wouldn't be around to tell about it.
Accused of working with criminals because I delivered them a pizza. I never mistook this job for low risk, but I never imagined it could potentially get me thrown in jail. We got a pretty sketchy delivery call at a late hour. Our front of house is constantly slammed with everyone desperate to eat at a table again now that they've had their shots, and they were in the weeds, so I grabbed the phone. Before I could even finish our standard greeting, the guy just goes, "Yeah, it's Mac. I'm ordering a pizza." I'm not much for small talk either, so I'm rolling with it, like, "Good for you, Mac. Pick up or delivery?" You know, just rattling off the standard questions. He answers the first few, but he seemed hesitant or confused. He argued with some other guy behind him for a second, then got back on the line and ordered like normal, as though none of the preceding stuff had ever happened. Whatever. I caught his delivery and out I went. It was a standard large pizza, no toppings, no extras. They were going to pay cash. I pull up and it's a scary, run-down, sparsely populated apartment complex. Mostly broke college students in there now though, so I wasn't too concerned or anything. I get to the door and when I knock, it eases open a bit. This didn't seem like the ideal neighborhood to keep your door unlocked, but not my business. I called in, "Hey, pizza." There was no response. I called a little louder, "Got your pizza out here." And an alarmed voice from inside was like,
"Shh, just come in."
No. I get that request weirdly a lot. Like everyone from sketchy apartment bros to suburban soccer moms asking me to bring the pizza to the dinner table because they're busy. Some people even pull this during lockdown. But it's a long-standing company policy, a good one, that entering the home for any reason whatsoever is a hard no. So I said back, "Can't do that, but I can leave it out here if you don't want to come to the door. Just need payment first." There was a silence, and then some shuffling, and then the door shut. And locked. And the guy was like,
"What do you mean payment first? That's not what we agreed on."
Through the closed door. I was standing there, wondering if this was the first pizza this man had ever ordered in his life, because payment first is basically implied, right? But I'm not looking for any confrontation or trying to be a jerk, so I just tell him, "Yeah, so our store policy is payment first," and he erupts screaming.
"That's not what Mario and I discussed.
So then I thought maybe he was trying to pull some kind of scam on us, because nobody at our store is named Mario, and I'm the one who took his order, so I know what we discussed. I decided if they weren't going to pay, I'd made a reasonable attempt to deliver and I could safely head out now. As I'm preparing to do so, another guy, looking back now, I realize he didn't even have a box, walks very confidently up to the door, pounds on it like a heavy bag, and grunts, "Pizza's here." I didn't know if this dude in the apartment had ordered 2 identical pizzas from different shops, or if our pizza had taken long enough that he thought we weren't coming and called someone else, or I had the wrong apartment or what. But it was weird enough that I decided to just go. Especially because pizza guy number 2 was looking at me with a real intense stare. Way more malice than I'd ever be able to muster on behalf of defending the turf for our joint's pies. He said something like, "Can I help you?" or "Wrong apartment," or something along the lines of a cordial, "Go away." But I was already on my way out and didn't really process it. I went back to the shop, told the story to my chef. We laughed and guessed at what it could have been to drive this man to order 2 pizzas at once. I didn't think about it again for several weeks. Those several weeks later, I was in the shop and a couple of cops walked in. Not in uniform, but they had badges. They asked me if I'd been at such and such apartment complex on such and such day, and I was like, "That was weeks ago. I have no idea where I was." So they were all like, "In that case, you wouldn't mind coming down to talk to us about what you do remember." But I was like, "Really? Nothing." And they said, "Well, that's fine. Let's talk anyways, and see if there's something you might not realize is relevant that comes back to you," and all this stuff prodding me. I told them, "I'm working right now, but I can come later next week maybe," but they were really insistent, which should have set off some flags in hindsight. They were like, "Well, this is really a pressing matter, and we'd appreciate if you came in right now. We'll explain it to your boss so there won't be any problems. You'll really be helping us out." Their not being able to chat at me at work should have been the first red flag, but I know I had not done anything illegal, so it didn't cross my mind that I could be in any sort of trouble or have a reason to worry. Especially because when I got to the police precinct, everyone was extremely friendly, like I was actually doing them a favor. They didn't throw me in a cell or try to intimidate me or anything. They brought me in a nice, air-conditioned conference room and gave me a comfortable chair and asked if I wanted anything to drink, and really just kind of talked to me for about 20 to 30 minutes. To this day, I'm still confused about this. I think they even offered to order food, if I remember right. I declined even the most basic offers because I was anxious to get back to my shift. Didn't need my coworkers getting any wrong ideas. I played along and made nice because they did get the okay from my boss to go as long as I needed. But in the back of my mind, I was like, "Didn't you say this was urgent? They're running short-staffed at work, so we can trade hot takes on the College Baseball World Series." Eventually though, and I think they were trying to be subtle, but they definitely weren't, they shifted to asking me about what they really brought me in to talk about. They asked me about if I'd made a delivery to the apartment complex, and it obviously racked my brain between when the cops first arrived and then. So I told them actually I had, that I wasn't sure if it was exactly the day they were quoting me, but it was around then. I figured they'd ask about the delivery, but didn't want to get ahead of their questions. I figured a brain dump of information would make me come off as guilty. Plus, I didn't want to accidentally tell them more than they were expecting to hear and land myself there longer. But instead of asking any of the questions I expected they'd ask, they said, "And how long had you known the guys you were delivering to?" Kind of confused, I responded, "I didn't." I could see that my answer disappointed them, but it was the truth. They collected themselves pretty quickly though. There were 2 detectives, the same 2 who had come in for me in the store, and one kept insisting on the facts as they saw them, and the other kept trying to bend things in my favor. So the Ben guy was like, "Okay, sure, not like y'all are best friends or anything, but you at least knew them as customers, right?" I wasn't sure what "knew them as customers" was supposed to mean, because to me, it was synonymous with not knowing them. So I said no. They changed topics. They asked how long the delivery had been planned for. I told them everything had to be ordered the same day unless it was 4 or more pies, and I didn't remember exactly when they called, but per store policy wouldn't have been more than 1 hour before it was delivered, probably sooner based on where they were relative to the store. We went back and forth like this for way longer than I was anticipating, them asking me questions that seemed to imply I knew something, me feeling super confused and giving them visibly disappointing answers, reminding them I knew nothing. Eventually, they seemed pretty frustrated, and they were basically like, "Stop lying to us, man. Cut your crap. Your friends rolled on you. It's done." And I'm sitting here thinking, I have friends? But of course, in all seriousness, I was shocked by the change of tone because I had no clue what they were talking about, and I told them so. And they were both like, "Come on, man. You're just embarrassing yourself at this point." With one trying to reassure me that if I just told them what I knew, they could still help me, and the other saying I was too stupid to seize this last chance. Well, no reason to sit around and be spoken to like that. I got up to leave. Before I knew what was happening, I was being Mirandized. It was like a horror movie nightmare playing out in slow motion in front of my eyes. So I stopped with my, "I want you to know that I want to get back to work, but I'm gonna be chill out of courtesy," demeanor, and lost my crap at that point. I kept really forcefully, without coming off as erratic, or so I hoped, insisting that I did not even know what they were talking about, like I'd been saying all along. They were not having any of it. They kept saying, "Videotape doesn't lie, man. You want to see the tape before you lock yourself into another lie? The jury's gonna eat this up." Jury? I don't even turn right at red lights half the time. Plus, you had video all this time you were grilling me to remember what happened, and you could have just shown me a video? What the heck? I knew I was in over my head at that point. A million thoughts were swirling around, and I was so overwhelmed and scared. I finally said what I should have said way back at the beginning, though I didn't say it nearly assertive enough because I was trying to, act innocent, not seem guilty, not make things worse than they had somehow already become. I was like, "Should I be talking to a lawyer?" And they said, "Do you want to talk to a lawyer? Did you do something that would necessitate the aid of an attorney?" And the other guy's like, "If you want a lawyer, we'll get you one. But I have to say, that does not look good on you." And I should have believed him. As my dad has now drilled into my brain, you never talk to the police, only your lawyer does. But at the time I thought, yeah, I guess asking for a lawyer does make it seem like I did it. Crap. Then they showed me enhanced frames of the video and timestamps, and they're saying all this stuff. It was really all a blur at this point. But one thing in particular stood out. They said something that they had already said a time or two before, but it hadn't totally sunken in until then. They alleged, "Your buddies thought this would be some quick money. They thought it'd be real slick to order a pizza instead of just calling and saying, 'Bring the stuff up.'" At this point, it had been established that they thought I'd transported some large sum of ill-gotten cash into the apartment, and that we wouldn't be suspicious or we wouldn't follow up. "I know you're a good guy. You didn't know what you were getting yourself into, but if you're not honest with us, we can't help you." I had told them repeatedly about the other guy who had shown up to supposedly deliver a pizza. I even pointed him out on the footage. Unfortunately, the cameras didn't have audio, so they couldn't hear me arguing with the people in the apartment over the measly few bucks, or more importantly, hear the other guy say, "Pizza." Because the other guy didn't even have a pizza box, and I did. They didn't believe me that I wasn't the pizza part of this operation. To recap, apparently what they had uncovered from the real criminals is that they were meant to take receipt of some money. The guys inside the apartment were told something like, "That afternoon you'll get a pizza," to try and prevent anyone from saying anything incriminating on paper. These dumb jerks in the apartment did not understand the instructions and actually ordered a real pizza instead of just waiting for their cash delivery to show up. I'm pretty certain all of that arguing I'd heard on the phone was one of the other criminals asking something to the effect of, "Are you sure you're supposed to order an actual pizza?" Because what else would they have been arguing about right then? So once I connected all the dots, it was a matter of proving my pizza delivery was legitimate. They tried to get a record of the delivery when they talked to my boss, but we're a small shop. We only keep tickets through the end of the week, and we just sign a piece of paper confirming our tip amount every night. These guys wouldn't have factored in since they didn't pay. I didn't have anyone but the criminals to corroborate my story, and there was nothing in it for them to exonerate me, or they would have done it by now. But then I remembered. The chef! I told him all about this delivery. I begged the cops to talk to him and reminded them I'd followed them right out of the store before I had known what this was about, so they could trust he was totally untainted. Sure enough, he recounted it exactly as I'd told him and told police. The stories matched near identically. The cops went through our phone logs, but these guys had called in their order from a burner, so that was of no help. I figured the chef would be enough, but after I'd been in the precinct for nearly 8 hours total, they said they were going to go ahead and hold me until they could verify I didn't go with a decoy pizza and somehow give them money another way, or until they found the real delivery guy. They never would because they didn't believe me that he was the other guy outside of the apartment on the video without a box. I don't know if he had the cash taped to him or what, but the cops were convinced it couldn't be him because he didn't have any bag, box, or something to hold the money. Finally, realizing this was not a misunderstanding that was going to go away, all these years of watching Law & Order kicked in and I asked for my phone call. I got my dad on the line and he of course said don't say another word and showed up with an attorney who had me out within an hour of his arrival. I was formally cleared of all involvement the next day, barely got an apology. None of this will show up on my record or anything, but still, you'd think they'd be a little more remorseful about what they put me through. My boss gave me a couple of paid days off, having seen how serious it all was with questioning the chef and searching the phone logs and everything. I think he was just glad I wasn't actually a criminal, because for the longest time all they would tell him is I was involved in a situation and they needed information. So yeah, tread lightly. Don't be like me and make this your whole career. Or do, if your only alternative is to become a criminal. Have you ever been questioned by the police? If so, how did it go? Please let us know.
Don't say anything, always get an attorney.
You want to ignore the group project? 0 for you. Well, my sister, now 30, was in high school at the time. She was in her junior year and had a class in biology or something like that. Some sort of science class, she says. The teacher, a sweet 60-year-old lady, had announced a very big project the class was going to do. They were going to be put into groups of 3 and had 3 weeks to complete it. They had to do a ton of research, write notes, get pictures, the whole 9 yards. It was worth massive points, and if you impressed her enough, she would choose one group to get extra points to go to another class. Everyone was crazy excited to get some points in another class that they weren't good in. Less work for them. So my sister got paired with a disabled girl, Annie, just stating she was wheelchair-bound because she did so much work while having her own problems, and it was impressive. She was very sweet and a great team member. It was the other person that was the problem. Brittany, fake name of course, was spoiled. Not in the money aspect, but in the,
"But I am so pretty and frail. Can't you do this simple task that I could easily do myself for me, please?"
type of spoiled. My sister just didn't like her for that, so they get paired and quickly split the tasks. It's about a week after the project is started and my sister makes a group chat and basically says, "Hey, let's get together and go over what we have and help each other out this weekend." Annie responds yes and asks for the place. Brittany never responds. So at the end, my sister says, "So, we will meet after school and go to the library. Brittany, I know you've been reading the messages, so don't be late." You can, of course, guess that Brittany didn't show up or even respond to the messages. But my sister didn't bother with talking to her. The second week passed and Brittany is still nowhere to be seen to go over the project. But still, my sister did not go after her. But then the day of the project came. My sister's group was the first to go up. First, my sister went up, Annie slowly made her way up, and then Brittany tried to go up. Tried. But before she could make it to the front, my sister stated, "It's okay, Brittany. Since you didn't do any of the project, you don't need to be up here with us." With what she said was the sweetest voice she could muster with a smile. The room just went even more silent. The teacher said, "What do you mean by that?" "Well, I mean that me and Annie have worked on this project since day 1 together, and Brittany has done literally nothing at all. I'm not sharing my grade with her." Now Brittany starts tearing up.
"She's lying. I worked hard on the project just like everyone else."
So my sister says, "I can prove she hasn't." Brittany scoffed and said,
"Then prove it,"
thinking that it was all talk. But it was not all talk. You see, my sister rocks at school and she hates slackers, especially people who try to take credit for something they didn't do. After Brittany didn't show up for the first meetup, my sister formulated a plan. 1. She emailed the teacher and had spoken about the subject of their project and how they were having trouble finding information. This puts the teacher in the know of what their project is and what everyone in the group should know. So the teacher started emailing her with references and books to look up. 2. They started doing their project in the school library. This helped because you had to sign in with your name to show who was going in. So for the past month, they had gotten very close to the library staff who knew them on a first-name basis and saw them come in to do their project, and they had evidence to show that Brittany never came with them. They kept using the group chat that Brittany never responded to, talking about times to meet up to go over the project. It showed how Brittany never even spoke to them. Finally, my sister spoke and said, "What is the subject of our project?" Brittany says the name of the class. "Wrong. I mean, what is the subject of our project? Brittany doesn't say anything. Wrong. Give me some definitions that we used in the presentation. Brittany doesn't say anything. Where were you when we were asking our teacher blah blah blah? Brittany is silent. Do you even know how many pages our paper needs to be? The teacher finally stops my sister. She was calm, but you could see anger in her eyes. She looked at Brittany and just says, "Sit down." You could almost hear her deflate on the spot. She stayed very quiet throughout the entire presentation, and my sister believes they actually got like a 93%. Of course, the teacher was not thrilled about how Brittany didn't do any work, and she was only hearing about it the day of the project. My sister got a stern talking to, but nothing more. She was to hand over any proof she had, and she gladly did so. As for Brittany, she got pulled into the office after school, and from what was spread around, her father had absolutely lost it. It was later found out by a very gossipy friend of Brittany that because she got a 0 on the project and was proven through the librarians, the emails between the teacher, and the group chat that she did nothing, her father really went in on her punishment. He had actually leased a car for her birthday and was going to surprise her with it, but as punishment, gave it to her brother. She was grounded, her grade tanked a lot, and she just barely passed. If there was a group project, she had to report to the teacher on what she did and had to show she was actually working. And best of all, people stopped falling for the doe-eye routine. Of course, there were the boys that would fawn over her, but for the most part, people started calling her out, and she couldn't just get people to do what she wanted anymore. It was like that until the end of the year when my sister transferred out and never saw her again. My sister stayed in touch with Annie for a few more years until they simply drifted apart, but she still remembers her from time to time. Did you enjoy group projects in school or not? Please let us know.
I could never stand group projects, but hey, that's just me.
Cardio Karen and the Grand Hospital Tour. About 5 years ago, my girlfriend was in the ICU of one of our largest hospitals in Sydney, Australia. Needless to say, it was a stressful time for me, but she's all good now. This story occurred as I was walking back from one of the hospital's cafes to see my girlfriend. I was stopped in the corridor by an older lady, maybe early 60s, wide as she was tall, who asked me to take her to the cardio ward. Her tone was very polite, and I told her I don't work there, but directed her to reception. Her ladyship did not like this response.
"Don't mess around. I know you work here. Take me there."
Her sudden change in demeanor stunned me.
"Come along. I don't have all day,"
she huffed. At this point, I should mention I was wearing a full suit and tie combo, as I had an unavoidable meeting later that day. Now, I like a navy suit as much as the next suave bloke, but the doctors in this hospital, when not in scrubs, mostly wore slacks and a collared shirt. Given the missus was a bit under the weather, I was sleep-deprived, anxious, and had no patience for her ladyship being a jerk. Okay, follow me. We started down the corridor, through some doors, and up a flight of stairs, her pacing grumpily behind me. I could see a sign ahead, cardio ward to the right. So, unfortunately for her ladyship, left we went. We went up lifts, down lifts, upstairs and down again. A full 10 minutes into our Royal Prince Alfred Hospital tour, it must have occurred to her that I had no idea where I was going. A porter with a gurney stepped out of the side door and she immediately accosted him.
"Your staff member here is wasting my time."
It was almost comedic the way he looked down at her, up at me, down at her, then up to me. "Did you tell this lady you work here?" "No, mate. Literally the opposite." I smiled at the porter. The porter frowned. "Where you headed, love?" By now, she was quite exasperated.
"What is wrong with you people? He should have taken me to the cardio ward, and don't love me."
The porter, trying to hide his smile, told her to follow him and off they went. I overheard her grumble something about staff complaint as they waddled away. Gosh only knows what my write-up would have said about me. I hurried back to the ICU ward, happily armed with a humorous story to cheer up my girlfriend. Am I the jerk for firmly telling my husband I won't cook for his friend again? For context, my husband, male 33, his best friend, Dale, male 37, lost his wife this past March. Ever since, I've been asked by my husband to consider sending hot homemade meals to his suffering friend, and I've started including Dale in the meals I cook. It started off as 1 meal a week, then gradually became 3 to 5 meals a week. Then my husband started coming with requests from his friend Dale, wanting me to cook certain meals that he preferred. I wasn't so fine with it, as I already had not a lot of time to spend in the kitchen. I'm a nurse, and work has become very exhausting, as well as money we spend to buy ingredients we need to cook meals for Dale. Dale would send me texts or emails thanking me for the meals I sent him, but at the same time kept sending suggestions and new ways to improve my cooking, like how his wife made this meal more crispy or how this meal should have more sauce. I gotta say, I started feeling irritated, especially since Dale kept texting all the time, and when I don't respond, he'd text my husband, who asks me to please be more patient since this is a phase and will pass. A few days ago, I was in the middle of my shift at 11 a.m. when Dale sent me a text, but I was too busy in my unit and I didn't even look at it. I work in a big hospital, so the pressure is big. I got off work at 9 p.m. to find my husband at home looking upset. I asked him, and he told me his friend Dale texted me early in the morning to tell me he was having guests over and wanted me to cook him a meal so he could serve it to them, but I didn't respond and kept him hanging, forcing him to order food at the last minute. I was taken aback. I didn't know why he'd come to me expecting that I cook for his guests, knowing that I had to work. My husband said his friend was just asking, but I ignored him and made him feel like a burden. I told him A, I was busy working, and B, I'm not obligated to cook for Dale, much less his guests that I never met. My husband said that Dale would have said okay if I said no, but he thinks that I work too much if I can't take a minute to look at the text he sent. Dale said that. It's funny because my job's paying for the food Dale's been eating since March. My husband said I put Dale in an awkward position and should apologize and clear the air, but I told him that I'm no longer cooking for his friend, not even weekly meals, period. Since this is the type of treatment I get and being treated like a maid or a personal cook, then I'm not cooking for Dale ever again. I said this, then I went upstairs. My husband said I overreacted and was being insensitive towards his widower friend and should have had more grace because his friend is struggling himself in this hard time. My husband said he didn't know I had this cruel side of me and asked me to put myself in Dale's shoes to understand that he's struggling. Additional info. A. Dale doesn't work, and my husband says it's rude to ask Dale to pay for food we sent him when I complained about the stuff I'm having to pay for to cook. B. My husband says Dale already has other friends helping out, but not with cooking as they are single and none of them know how to cook, just like my husband. C. Dale thinks I work too much. How does that even concern him? I have no idea. Dale and I never really got along, but I keep it civil since he's my husband's best friend and is struggling to adapt as a widower, so I try to be graceful and understanding. My husband goes over to his house daily to help with whatever he can, so it's not just me helping, but because my husband doesn't cook, he thinks Dale deserves to have a hot meal or two weekly. Cooking is not a problem for me if it doesn't interrupt work. I cooked for my brother many times when our mother passed, but it's how Dale keeps texting me all the time. My husband works from home and takes care of household chores except cooking. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Dale? Please let us know.
I'd tell that husband maybe he should learn to cook for Dale. If Reddit boy tried to pull this crap on me, I'd be gone in the blink of an eye, and I'd take the house.
Lady, please. I'm just trying to get cake ingredients. So this just happened an hour or so ago. My grandmother and I went out shopping to get ingredients for my birthday dinner and the cake I'm going to make. My birthday is in 2 weeks, but the ingredients we needed are on sale and most of them are canned, so we went to get them today. My grandma decided it would be faster if I were to take a basket and grab the cake mix and pineapple and any other mixes we needed at home, and she went to get the peas, orzo, and bacon bits. I found the pineapple cans pretty fast, so I had plenty of time to look at all of the cake and brownie mixes. I had some music playing in my headphones, so I couldn't hear anything around me. While I was looking, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I assumed I was standing in their way and they needed something from the shelf I was looking at. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and stepped aside. I saw the lady start talking, so I pulled out one of my earbuds. Lady,
Can you help me find
whatever item it was, I don't remember. Me, knowing where most of the items are. Oh, that should be an aisle number, unless they rearrange the store.
Well, aren't you going to show me where it is?
Me, oh, sorry, I'm actually looking for cake mixes. I don't work here. I should probably note that most employees at this store wear vests, and I was wearing an olive green shirt I had just gotten for Christmas. Lady,
Don't lie to me. You obviously work here.
she gestured towards my lanyard, which I have a picture of my late husky hanging on. It also has a key to my home, which I have just in case I get locked out. Me, getting really anxious because I don't like confrontation. Lady, please, this is just a picture of my old dog and a key to my home. I told you where your stuff should be, so please leave me alone. You're making me uncomfortable. Lady, getting irritated.
I'm not leaving you alone until you take me to where the item is.
At this point, she had started raising her voice and had caught the attention of some people nearby. One guy who looked about my age walked up and asked if she was bothering me. Before I could get a word out, the lady started going off.
This young lady won't show me where this item is.
Other stuff I don't remember because I was trying to hold back tears. Guy, lady, she doesn't work here. She goes to my high school. I know her. Leave her alone. At this point, the lady spotted an actual employee and walked off to harass them. I think the guy, who for the record actually does go to my school, I just didn't recognize him, and went back to picking out mixes. Come watch this video next, you won't believe what happens.
And to have us make a video for you, head over to our Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.